subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. We're glad you made it out here today. So last night I slept on my back, which meant I snored all night long. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
And then you wake up and you're like, back of your throat has like,
yeah.
That's how I feel this morning.
Oh.
So if I feel kind of nasally, it's because I was snoring all night long. Now my medulla oblongata is like all stretched out and swollen or something. For Razor, good morning from Boise. Glad you made it. John Atakis on YouTube. Nice day to work for the man. That's right. Always working for someone else. Pony Boy 3255, good morning, and bye-bye Cornyn. Oh, yeah. Cornyn is bye-bye gone. Marizo, good morning, Taylor and Ron. Oh, glad you guys made it.
Good morning.
While you guys are all piling in, Carlitos, good morning. Glad you made it. We've got a good show today, so we're going to jump in with our simultaneous sip. And all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's the simultaneous sip, and it starts right now.
Hi, I'm Nick Peterson. Every single hour in America, a socialist is faced with the daunting reality that they may have to contribute to society. For thousands of others, help came too late and they were forced to find employment. Will you be an angel for a helpless communist in training? Every day, hundreds of socialists must abandon their slam poetry meetups for the evils of personal responsibility. They're forced to participate in a free market where, unfortunately, individual achievement could possibly lead to prosperity. They're crying out for your handout, and only you can save them from drowning in student debt from a degree in feminist dance theory. Please visit the website on your screen and join the SPCS with a monthly gift right now. For just $6,000 a month, only 20,000 cents a day, you'll help rescue a socialist from the perils of employment and provide shelter among rising rent costs that they were tricked into voting for. Public transportation that they were told would be free, tattoos and piercings they otherwise couldn't afford, crayons for their signs, and daily Starbucks. Join in the next 30 minutes and you'll receive this free Karl Marx sticker to put on your MacBook Pro. Right now, there's a socialist freeloader who needs you. Your donation says, I'm here to help keep your failed ideology on life support. We promise your donation won't be used for an airline ticket to a socialist country, but instead to bring that ideology here, because this time it'll be different. So please visit thespcs.com right now, and together we can achieve our mission of an equal opportunity starvation nation. Thank you.
Dude,
Brilliant.
That's one of the best. Oh, man, there's so many good little one-liners in there. I love it so much. All right, Carlitos and Tiffany, howdy, y'all. Rainy days here in Texas.
Huh.
You guys probably need the rain to wash away Cornyn's tears, of course. All right, before we get going too far, let's check in on Iran. Seems important over there. Cost of a barrel of oil is down to like $88 or $85 a barrel, so that's good.
Huh.
Prices seem to be coming down as we are on the verge of peace, except we were launching some missiles last night.
Iran reportedly putting a price tag on peace. State media claiming the regime wants $24 billion in frozen funds released as part of any deal with the U.S. Our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yinks, is reporting live out of Tel Aviv for us at this hour. He's got the latest. Trey?
Yes, Andrew, good afternoon. Iranian state media says the regime is demanding billions of dollars
worth of frozen funds released as part of any sort of agreement with the United States. Now, officials in Washington say that's not going to happen, and any sort of financial relief for the Iranians will only come if they uphold their end of the bargain. This comes as the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports remains in effect, and U.S. Central Command says more than 100 vessels have been redirected as the Trump administration works to tighten economic pressure on the Iranian regime. Overnight, the United States conducted airstrikes against southern Iran near the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM says the strikes were defensive in nature and targeted mine-laying vessels along with a surface-to-air missile position. These were the first U.S. strikes that have targeted Iran since early May.
So first time we've fired shots since early May. Guess we got a couple weeks off. So we just kicked the can down the road another day. Guess we'll see if there's a peace deal tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after that. But
all right, check in tomorrow.
Man, you've been on some of those boats for weeks on a time. Could you imagine sitting on one of those boats now? What is it going on? Almost 3 months? Just hanging out.
I can't imagine.
It's pretty.
I'm sorry, you people on those boats. I'm so
bad.
sorry.
It's pretty bad. And it's hot too over there. It's not like, it's hot. It's probably not very fun.
No.
All right. So shifting over to Texas. Yes, it was a bad day for John Cornyn yesterday. In fact, there were bad news bears running all over his campaign headquarters yesterday as they were getting ready to count the vote. This is CNN reporting.
A lot of concern, Anderson, nervousness that this could be the end of a career that has spanned decades here in Texas that led to Cornyn holding a Senate seat since 2002, ascending to the top ranks of the Senate Republican leadership, but could see it come to an abrupt halt, all in large part because of the president's late decision to get behind Ken Paxton in this critical race that could determine the next Senate majority. I talked to Senator Cornyn earlier today, and he bluntly warned Republicans against nominating Paxton, continued to attack him up until the final days of the campaign. I asked him, why not back off these attacks, given that Paxton himself has called on the party to unite, called on the party to have a positive message and to focus on James Tallarico instead. But Cornyn defended his decision to continue to go negative, saying that voters deserve to hold Paxton accountable.
It's just emboldened him to the point of recklessness and now to the point of self-destructiveness, especially with regard to his own family. I just think you cannot trust Ken Paxton.
Trump has had similar allegations against him.
So what they're talking about here is they're playing dirty. Ken Paxton had an affair and his wife ended their marriage on biblical grounds.
Okay.
And so that's their wedge now, right? And that's where Mono's like, well, Trump's had similar accusations. Okay.
Do you have the same concerns about Trump?
I think it's a totally different scenario. And I'm running against Ken Paxton. And so that's why we're making the case, because I think voters have a right to know.
Yeah. The attacks that you have waged against him, is he going to be damaged in November if he's a nominee?
Well, I have every confidence that the Democrats would be able to find that same information and use it. And so, but I think it's important to the electorate to be informed, well informed.
Wow. Up to the last minute, smearing your opponent. Now, didn't help him much. This is MS Now reporting from his campaign watch headquarters.
Because it's a very small room. You can see that there are political signs. Excuse me. And there are more than a dozen cameras here. You can take a look. There's room for about 50 chairs. You can see the podium where Cornyn is expected to speak later today. But again, it's very tight. It does not scream Texas-sized party. It does not scream Texas-sized room, Simone. But then again, here we have a little more air conditioning. I did ask the senator's campaign if there was a different room where perhaps supporters are waiting for the senator or where the senator is going to be mingling with supporters. I was told that he is going to be waiting for the results privately. So again, this is where we're expected to hear from Senator Cornyn as soon as the results come in. Again, Simone, it was a little tight in there, not screaming Texas-sized.
AKA Cornyn expected to lose.
Loser.
And this is exactly what happened last night. This is as the results are rolling in.
And then in the election day vote, I have Paxton at 87 over Cornyn 13.
Goodness.
Did you hear that? The election day vote, it was coming in for Ken Paxton, 87-13.
Ouch.
And the man in the background goes, oh my goodness. Now, in the early voting, it was 64 Paxton, 36 Cornyn.
Okay. So, right. In the early vote in this county, Stonewall County, Adams talking about 28 points is the margin for Paxton over Cornyn. And now we're starting to get election day. But we said this would be the more Cornyn friendly was the expectation. The election day vote, everyone election day, presumably full knowledge of that Trump endorsement. Paxton had already done better with the election day vote back in the preliminary. Wow. A 74-point margin, 28-74. So if that's a harbinger, what we're seeing in that one small county, then where you see Paxton red right here, it's going to get deeper and deeper Paxton.
Deeper and deeper Paxton. Oh, man. Cornyn had a bad night last night. Bad night. Here was a portion of his acceptance speech, which I thought was pretty good.
I'll support President Trump's America First agenda and finally secure our nation's elections by passing the Save America. Taking on big food and big pharma as Attorney General. And I'm going to continue doing that in the Senate because making America healthy again is critical for our nation's future. As Attorney General, I've sued some of the largest companies in the world like Netflix, Snapchat, and Roblox for taking advantage of our kids by exposing them to dangerous, addictive material. In Washington, I will not stop fighting to protect Texas children from big tech hurting our kids. I'll support President Trump.
I actually really appreciated his speech. And when I started thinking about it as Attorney General, he did take on some really big fights. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how he carries those into the Senate and does that. So Cornyn has a couple weak spots. Obviously, he just got trounced. But Paxton does too. Namely, his quote unquote affair with his wife is probably the angle that they're going to take to try to shove a wedge, in this general season. Now, Tallarico isn't exactly, I think he's gay. Okay. So it's not exactly like, you have a Sunday school student on one end and then you've got Paxton on the other. It's kind of like, you're kind of picking between two morally questionable decisions, if that's your perspective and your paradigm here. So CNN kind of sets the stage. They're talking about this really trouncing that Paxton did over Cornyn here. This is like Cassidy finishing third. This is a big deal. Like you just unseated another incumbent senator. This is the first time this has happened in over 100 years, and it just happened twice in one primary season.
It's sort of the differences between what a Cornyn or a Paxton would look like here. I'm thinking about the differences between Tallarico and literally every other Texan. Don't know any Texans who believe in 6 genders other than Tallarico. Don't know any Texans who said it's immoral to eat meat other than Tallarico. Don't know any Texans who walk around saying things, God is non-binary. You all are both Texans. Do you know any other Texan who even talks like that? Issues aside, who says these things out loud? When this gets adjudicated, all that money coming in from California and New York, it'll be well spent in Texas.
You know what I'm smelling, Scott? Fear.
Oh.
Panic. Panic. You guys are on this. You are on this. He's more popular than Trump in Texas, brother.
Can you explain his position?
He cited a biological study. It's not his position. He cited a study.
So you're for it.
So
you believe in
you know what I'm not for? I'm not for $6.89 hamburger. Okay? James actually eats beef, okay, but he can afford to. Most Texans can't anymore. Now, Ken Paxton can because on a government salary, he's become a millionaire. How does that happen? He can afford hamburger. This is what it's going to be about. You want it to be about woke. I want it to be about broke.
Is this the Democrat asshole?
Yeah.
That's pretty rich.
What I will say is Scott is melting down, but that is like the Republican Party right now.
All Paxton has to do to win is go to barbecue. That's all he has to do.
Let me make my point. He is an 8th generation white Texas male who loves meat and talks about the cost of living in the state, is appealing to a moderate electorate, including Republicans who don't want to vote for Paxton, and Republicans are running completely
I think you just proved that most Republicans are going to vote for Paxton. Okay. And this idea that Tallarico is going to appeal to the Texas white man, I don't know. And I don't know that he's going to appeal to the Hispanic voters either.
Right now. And I
So,
think that is
just
what
for the record,
what I will say,
neither of you can define
but
a gender.
when we're talking about morality and like, values and stuff like that, you have Paxton here who was married for almost 40 years, and his wife, who knows him the best, ended their marriage on biblical grounds. What does that mean? I'm a Catholic. I will say that either means you cheated on your spouse with a man or a woman, or you went ahead and abused your spouse. I will say that is, when you're talking about judgment, a woman who knows that, has known that man for 40 years, that is judgment.
Well, Scott, can
Okay, so that's going to be the issue.
So is that the only reason that people get divorced?
Well, on biblical grounds, I don't know.
I guess if they're in politics, it is. But
yeah, they're in politics. Rachel says Paxton had whistleblower accusations, sued for firing them, investigated by the FBI over corruption, then impeached from Republican Texas House, and beat it all.
Yeah.
And the Texas House member that was impeaching him was drunk on the floor of the House.
So the only other one thing that I'd like to note is that the chick that was like, when you're talking about morality and things like that, it's like people that talk about morality like that.
Yeah.
Do they even know what morality is?
And here's the thing. The Republicans aren't really having it. So CNN had people at Paxton's watch party, or maybe it was at Cornyn's party. I can't remember here, but they were asking him, do these things concern you? Do the alleged affair and the moral concerns about Paxton concern you? And the answer coming from a MAGA supporter was pretty simple.
Here at this event this evening about some of Senator Cornyn's arguments that Paxton's scandals could be a liability for Republicans come November. She is seen here wearing this MAGA, this Make Texas Great Again jacket. And she told me of these criticisms of Paxton's scandals, quote, "I'm not marrying him. He isn't my pastor. He isn't my spiritual advisor, but he's a very good attorney general." And that is a sentiment that we hear from a lot of Paxton supporters heading into this runoff. The big question is whether that is something that general election voters might be willing to overlook if he becomes a GOP nominee and faces off against Democratic nominee James Tallarico in November.
I think it's super rich when Democrats try to pull the moral card on someone. It's like, let's go back in time. JFK and Marilyn Monroe. Okay, let's go back in time. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. How many women do we need to walk out here? If I'm not mistaken, Trump, after the Access Hollywood tape leak, literally brought 4 women who accused Bill Clinton of rape to the debate. And told Hillary Clinton, look at those women. Before you put my name in your mouth, go talk to those women.
Front row.
Yeah. Monica Lewinsky. Hello. Household name for a reason. How about Obama? Oh, you mean Mr. Gay himself? I mean, a lot of people haven't heard about the gentleman that rode around in the limousine with him. Sinclair is his last name, right? Tucker Carlson interviewed him. Very credible when you actually boil it down to it. So it's really rich when it's like, well, you don't want to have that guy, that heterosexual weirdo. And you've seen our lineup of weirdos over here. Like, oh my goodness, it's rich. And so it's pretty appropriate for a Republican supporter to be like, listen, I ain't marrying him, but I'm not voting for Black Jesus. I mean, he's riding around the car with dudes and crack pipes. Oh man. Allegedly, just so we don't get in trouble here. So one thing that I have noticed last year and the year before, Republicans were losing a lot of these special elections. And maybe it's just because it's the primary season and it's Republicans versus Republicans. But I'm seeing a pretty significant shift. I mean, we've seen a couple elections now where Trump got more votes for his endorsed candidate than he did in the last election cycles. You're starting to see maybe there's a little bit tighter controls on the elections themselves, like the counting of the ballots. Yeah. Something's going on that's making these elections, seem to be more legitimate. But then I saw this last night in Fort Bend, Texas.
Public is already very
breaking news.
Their machines broke down.
Oh.
In Fort Bend County, voting temporarily halted due to a bug in the system.
A clerical user error in our office. The standard procedures for updating our poll books at the polling locations is to export essentially a file that gets remotely transmitted to the locations. Export essentially a file that gets remotely transmitted to the location.
Now, when I was going to prison for protesting a stolen election,
that couldn't happen.
That couldn't happen. That was outside the realm of possibility. Stop asking, young man. Okay, that's the response I got. That's outside the realm of possibility. Stop asking, young man. The idea that these election machines are not air gapped, that they even need access to the internet, that's a wives' tale. Where did you get that myth? What, Sidney Powell, the wacko? Okay, and yet here we have another breakdown in an election. Oh, sorry, we couldn't remotely transport the information
like
which
we always
supposed
do.
to be transmitted over the internet at all. Did we mention that these machines aren't connected to the internet? We just need the internet to make them work. Total insanity.
The purpose of this is to update voter registration, voter statuses for those voters that are showing up at the polls. Unfortunately, when this upload was completed today, the incorrect file was chosen.
Now, this happened late this afternoon. Maria Aguilera live at the county's election headquarters with the very latest on what's happening. Maria?
Yeah, Lynn and Mia, we're learning that the issues here in Fort Bend County started around 3:40 this afternoon. Election officials are saying this was due to a bad file uploaded into the system. Now, that issue is what caused the voting machines countywide to go down, preventing voters from properly checking in. Now, officials say they are working on a remote fix, but there's still no clear timeline for when the
a remote fix. Election officials are working on a remote fix and upload in the middle of the freaking day to upload election files and statuses, not the day before, not before voting starts, during the voting. During the voting.
Those machines will be back up and running. In the meantime, many voting sites are offering provisional ballots for
because provisional ballots don't have any problems, especially when it's in mass. You know, it's one thing if your local elementary school has 5 provisional ballots because 5 people weren't in the poll books and we're going to go figure it out later. No, the whole county is now voting on provisional ballots.
Eligible voters, of course. Election officials also say that this issue has been reported to the state and that the votes cast before the outage remain secure. Now, new tonight, Congressman Christian Menefee's campaign is calling for extended poll hours, saying that voters should not lose times because of a technical failure that is out of their control. Officials are still encouraging people to head to the polls while they work to restore those machines and get them back up and running. Obviously, polls close at 7 p.m. It is unclear at this time if that time will change tonight, but of course, we'll continue to monitor this and bring you the latest as soon as the information becomes available. But for now, live in Fort Bend County, Maria Aguilera, KHOU 11 News. Back to you.
Things happening. They're trying to get it fixed so folks can vote. Maria, thank you.
A clerical user error in our office. The standard procedures for updating our poll books at the polling locations is to export essentially a file that gets remotely transmitted to the locations. The purpose of this is to update voter registration, voter statuses for those voters that are showing up at the polls.
Dude, this is just classic. Now, the good news is we're hearing about it.
Yeah.
Because when it happened in Georgia and Arizona, they didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it. So at least we're hearing about it.
You know, that one reporter gentleman was saying, well, we just had to fix the system so that it would vote properly. And I was like, you could hear that 2 different ways.
Yes, you could. Now, another person we lost, bless his heart, old Chip Roy. Remember Chip Roy?
Yeah.
From clips like this. You know, sometimes it's hard to, there's a lot of these people here that really put on the MAGA cloak, but when it really boiled down to it, they weren't MAGA at all. Chip Roy was one of those people, right? He came across as tough, hard-nosed Republican, part of the Freedom Caucus or whatever it was. But at the end of the day.
And I was just at multiple events with Ron DeSantis where he's shaking their hands and looking them in the eye while Donald Trump hangs out in his basement in Florida, afraid to actually debate. What's he afraid of? Look, I'm happy to debate him if he wants to anywhere. I'm just a little old congressman. Why won't he debate Ron DeSantis or any of the other candidates? I think he should.
Why do you think he won't get on the debate stage with the other Republicans?
Well, I mean, like I can tell you from Ron DeSantis' perspective is because he would clean his clock. I mean, if you compare the records, they're not comparable. And
okay. So Ron DeSantis and Trump aren't comparable. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that seems factual. All right, so Chip Roy was running for Attorney General to replace Ken Paxton, and I honestly thought Chip Roy was probably going to win. I hadn't followed this race very closely. Nope, he got blown out too. So Mays Middleton got the nomination or the Republican endorsement, whatever, got on the ballot with 57.2% of the vote, when Chip Roy pulling in only 42.8% of the vote. So that's a pretty good spread.
Dang, look at the numbers, though. Ooh.
That's what I wanted to draw your attention to. So on the Democrat side, their winner, Nathan Johnson, got 60% of their votes with a total of 163,348 votes.
Right.
Mays Middleton got 398,000.
400,000.
That's over double the amount of votes. In fact, these guys totaled together, Democrats in this primary, only just shy of 400,000 people voted.
So what's the narrative here where Democrats are going to somehow win? I mean, how do you even pull those numbers together to create an
this
argument?
Is a primary, so you've got kind of a motivated Republican Party here.
Sure.
Although you'd think the Democrats would be motivated too, but they definitely didn't show up in this one. So, I mean, you've got 300,000 extra primary votes that the GOP cast over the Democrats.
But we don't think that these GOP voters are gonna not vote in the primary, though. I mean, come on, they're gonna vote.
Based on these numbers, let's say only primary voters voted and all the votes consolidated on the Democrat side.
Sure.
And Chip Roy votes all just went to a third party writing candidate.
Sure.
Mays Middleton still wins.
Yeah, he still crushes it.
Crushes it. Yeah. That doesn't look like it's going to be a close race.
No.
Which will make it interesting if people think the Tallarico and Paxton race is going to be close, then you'd think the down ballot races would be close too. I don't know, man. Like, I tend to agree with a pretty mainstream Republican commentator. Like, listen, Tallarico, 6 genders, God's non-binary. I have to confront my whiteness. Meat's bad. I love the transgender kids. They're so special to me. I don't see any of that going anywhere.
No.
I see it as kind of dead on arrival. Shantini, good morning, peasants. New cheeseburger this morning. Man, you guys are just popping out cheeseburgers like every day. Holy cow.
You guys roll out more cheeseburgers than McDonald's.
Cheeseburgers is a code for baby calf, by the way. Okay, Carlitos, we used to work out in Fort Bend. They have gone full woke libtard over there. Well, no wonder they can't figure out their machines. It's probably what they were trying to do was steal accounting. So Laura Ingraham had a couple commentators on, Matt Townies in specific, and they were talking about the message to the Republican Party after tonight and after this entire primary season is dead clear. Rhinos, obstructionists to Donald Trump's agenda, get out of the way.
Let's get Matt into this. Matt, look, the fact of the matter is, if Cornyn wanted to be more popular with the Trump voters, it wasn't that hard to do over the last couple of years, was it? I mean, he could have really lobbied for that Save America Act. He could have pushed to get rid of the filibuster. He could have been a warrior on these issues. I mean, other Republicans have straddled that line with Trump, but he didn't do it.
Well, Laura, we predicted that Paxton was going to win this thing a couple months on your show months ago. And it's because the MAGA vote is just so intense. And the country club Republicans are shrinking and going away in the suburban areas. He could have done a lot of things. I mean, this whole world of Tillis and McConnell and unfortunately Cornyn and others, they're killing themselves because they do not realize the Democrats are going to nuke the filibuster. They're telling you that right now. They are going to try to expand the Supreme Court. So why do they not want to be proactive, follow Trump, support him, allow him to get some of his policies passed now so we don't have to hold everything on the midterms? I don't understand it. I don't think the president understands it. And I don't think Republican voters understand it, which is why Paxton is going to win tonight.
It's because the Republicans have been immune to politics by playing too many politics. They think their positions are protected by the Democrats themselves, that they can just be the loyal opposition, and that's good enough for them. The reality is Trump wants to lead. He's an executive. He's not a politician. He doesn't want to have a bunch of people owing him favors on his way out of office. He's going to expend everything he has. He just sees this as a different game. He's clearly not in it to, oh, you've been around since 2002, John Cornyn. Let's see if we can get another 12 years for you.
No, it feels like this time that he's running the tables.
And this is what Bill Hemmer covered on Fox News. this campaign, I mean, Trump's always had 97% success on his endorsements, but he's better than Babe Ruth this year.
Well, 8 times, he won 8. Trump endorsed on the U.S. House level 101 times, he's won 101 times. Trump endorsed U.S. Senate, he's won 8 times, and we're about to find out tonight whether or not that will be number 9, Laura. So
And it
50
ended up
minutes
being 100%.
Doesn't look like there's anything to argue about.
100%. Now, even on the Democrat side, the performance artists, and we've had a couple of them, Cori Bush, we had the black guy that pulled the fire, Jamal Bowman. We've had a whole handful of Democrats who have been part of the squad or squad adjacent, who have been adamantly opposed to Donald Trump, and they've made mockeries of themselves. Cohen just lost his seat in Tennessee. It got written out. Who knows where South Carolina is going to go, but it sounds like old black guy, what's his name? He's one who helped get Biden his nomination in South Carolina. His name will come to me. Anyways, his seat may or may not get written out. And then on top of that, you've had multiple people who have been voted out. Last night, Al Green in New Mexico got trounced on the Democrat side. Now, who's Al Green? He's the guy who's probably written more articles of impeachment against Trump in his first term and now his second term.
Jermaine Johnson? Jermaine Johnson?
No, it starts with a C, I think. Right there. That's his picture right there on the far right. On the far right, that's his picture.
This guy?
No, this guy down here on the video with Paxton. Up. That's the guy right there. Can't remember his name.
Slow.
Okay, so anyways, Al Green, who stood up at the State of the Union to protest Trump, well, he got blown out yesterday.
A jarring one to see, I think, just in terms of where expectations were. Green won Fort Bend in a landslide in the preliminary, getting crushed by Menifee here in his home base. And again, that's Harris County. And so our decision desk is saying that long-time Democratic incumbent Al Green, he, among other things, if you watch the State of the Union address every year, he's often prominent there for a variety of reasons. But Al Green losing here to Christian Menifee. So one incumbent had to go. Our decision desk says Al Green will be that incumbent.
Okay. Why is this significant? I think the Democrat Party is breaking right. I think that's what that means. They're breaking right. Here locally, North Kitsap County, the Democrats are about to run someone for state house that walks around with a pocket constitution in his pocket. The Democrat Party. The guy knows what a constitution is.
I guess they know what time it is.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see a little bit of this break right kind of thing. The constituency is getting sick of the communism. They're getting sick of having to defend a candidate who says there's 6 genders or loves trans kids. That's like, listen, we all have a bleeding heart, but can we win an election without being weirdos?
So they're going to abandon their platform without even explaining it? They're just going to...
Explain.
What's the narrative here now?
Explain. They don't need a narrative. They just need to win, right?
Okay.
And the only way they're going to win is what I call probable believability. Here's a little thing. This is a chart, and I can't really fact check this, but this comes from Stop Seattle Dems, and this has to do with the election in Seattle for Katie Wilson. So there's a late ballot turn-ins. So on November 5th, when we had the election for Seattle's mayor,
Bruce
Harrell was leading at 53.6%, which is a pretty decisive win.
Yeah.
Okay. And then fast forward, November 10th, we started to have ballots coming in, and the Harrell by the time November 11th happened was at 53.7% lead. Okay. So his lead went up. Okay. And then November 12th, there was a suspicious surge over to Katie Wilson with some dubious, questionable reporting from the Seattle Times. And then on November 13th, 8 days after the election, Katie Wilson suddenly won by 2,000 votes with 50.19%. Dramatic shift. Harrell was 7 points ahead. And by the time they stopped counting over a week later, Katie Wilson ended up with 2,000 extra votes.
Just right down below your cursor. What does that say?
Election
Hashtag
integrity matters.
Stop mail-in cheating.
Stop mail-in cheating. You know, sometimes these little AI generated flyers, they misspell like stupid little words. I had one yesterday. Someone sent me with Washington State fraud points, and all the locations were right. There was another flyer that was made later that cleaned up, but it had like Bellingham where Tacoma is. It had Tacoma over by Spokane. It was like, dude, this AI map is off. The numbers seem to all be right, but somebody went in later and cleaned up the map part of it. So anyways, again, election integrity matters, folks. Anywhere you can clean up these elections, you're going to see a huge swing to the right. It's just the way this stuff's going to end up working. What do you got for us, Ron?
Oh, jeez.
Whenever you click over, I'm ready to go. And then they all freeze up on you,
I
don't
can't
they?
click over there. There's nothing there.
Okay. So jumping over to New York City. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about socialism. It's kind of been our theme this week, and that was our opener, right? Go take care of a socialist. So in our major cities, New York, LA, Chicago, or Chicago as well, and Seattle and Portland, they're really being run by people who are pretty open about their support for socialism and communism. All right, Ron, looks like we got one. Let's do it. Rumble preview.
Couldn't wait. All right. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering a $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom and content you actually care about. That's the deal.
And you're going to want to stick around for premium. I got this thing in the back of my throat. You're going to want to stick around for premium today because we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's health, which, if you're a Democrat, is waning rapidly.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, Trump's going to be pulling out the auto pin pretty soon. He's so bad, so bad.
Okay.
Okay, so Mondami up in New York, everybody knows he's a socialist. He kind of has that nice cheesy smile. He's won over a lot of the youth. I remember on that airplane ride I went where I sat between the two Zoomerwaffens, the one gal who was Jewish but supported Palestine that had some real issues there. There was some cognitive dissonance happening.
Okay.
But she supported Mondami, really loved his wife, who's very anti-Semitic, has lots of negative things that she's posted over the years. Right? Very, again, the cognitive dissonance is already there for her, and it's just going to get thicker and thicker and thicker as time goes on.
If you're already confused, don't be.
Yeah, don't be. She's going to be more confused before her cycle ends, because clearly she's in love with Mondami's wife, probably unaware of Mondami's prejudice against the Israelis. So, anyways, Mondami put people around him on his staff, and one of the people he put around him is this woman here. Her name is Sia Weaver, S-E-A Weaver, and she is currently serving as New York City's tenant director. So she's in charge of housing, okay? When Mondami was campaigning, she did a little Zoom call and talking about the policies they're working on, anticipating they were going to win. This is what she said.
I think the reality is that for centuries, we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good. And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
What is she saying there? We viewed property as an individual thing, like, you own it. White property owners, and even some people of color property owners, they're going to have a different relationship with their housing. Okay. They're going to have a different relationship. Okay. Essentially talking about socialization, collectivization of property ownership.
Or stealing. Classic
communist agenda stuff, right? Take from the haves and give to the have-nots until the have-nots have, and then the former haves, the whole social order gets flipped on its head. Well, this is Mondami yesterday in a stump speech, making good on his promise.
Through our new citywide campaign, Fix the City, we will focus on the worst landlords in New York City. When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
Well, there you go, Ron. You're looking at that like just baffled.
Yeah. Maybe you should have taken a picture of me. let me try to recreate it.
Okay. So we're here. We're at this point. The mayor of New York is talking about confiscating private property and giving it to nonprofits, which, if you've been following the nonprofit scandals around the country, that's problematic. Land trusts, aka public conservatories, and what was the other one? To the tenants themselves. Now, if you're familiar with New York real estate, a lot of these landlords that have neglected their properties, of the landlords, they got suckered into being fixed rent. What is it called? Rent caps? What do they call it? Where they don't raise the they have rent, like basically they freeze the rents and rent controls. So they freeze the rents. And what that does is it puts the landlord in a position where he can pay his mortgage and he has a little bit of extra money. And in the beginning, that little bit of extra money actually has some purchasing power. But fast forward 15 years and that little cash flow, that extra $20, $100 a month that they're getting on that rent, it don't fix the broken sink anymore.
Yeah.
Right. The faucet doesn't cost $20 and the labor $80. It's like now the faucet costs $120 and the labor's $200.
And never mind that, they still have to pay taxes.
Taxes. Exactly.
So they get squoze hard.
Yeah. Sarah Singh's asked how many people in that crowd will lose their homes. In that crowd, probably none of them. They're
probably nobody.
Right. Because clearly I didn't see anybody in a suit back there, any landlord looking people. But again, it matters. It's incredibly important who we elect into these positions. Okay. It's incredibly important who we elect into these positions. Oregon, another one of these states that's kind of given itself over to leftist.
I'm Angelica Thornton.
Has a wild proposition that is headed for the ballot in November. Excuse me. Listen to this, reporting out of Oregon. Again, guys, Mandami's people talked about getting rid of private property ownership, and now they're taking the first legitimate steps to do that. It's happening. Okay. Oregon, they've been influenced by environmentalists for decades now, and they've gotten to the point where they're going to get this on this thing that they're going to talk about here on the ballot. And if it wins, there's going to be this plausible believability behind it.
I'm Angelica Thornton, and this is your K2 Morning Minute. And this may sound like rage bait to many of you, but it is real. A petition to outlaw killing animals for food in Oregon is one step closer to the November ballot. The proposal would also ban hunting, fishing, and some forms of pest control. The Secretary of State's office still needs to verify the signatures before it can qualify. Portland City Councilors will vote today on whether to rename Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Councilor Loretta Smith wants to change it to Campesinos Boulevard, Spanish for farm workers. She introduced the idea after civil rights advocate Dolores Huerta accused Chavez of rape. Critics argue changing the street name would cost too much and cause confusion. A mystery out of Canada may now have a Pacific Northwest connection.
So, getting rid of hunting, fishing, and killing nuisance animals.
That's just un-American.
I know. It's un-Oregonian either. Like, I had an FBI agent one time from Oregon tell me, I don't know if Oregon's as blue as people think. It's a lot of pickups and shotguns.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. He's a lot of pickups and shotguns. It's like outside of Portland or downtown Eugene, it's not as blue as you'd think.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people will get into the blue zeitgeist, right? They get
I think a lot of that's because of Fred Armisen in Portlandia.
Yeah. A lot of people will get into the zeitgeist, but when you really boil it down to it, people believe in private property. Well, that's my stuff, right? That's my stuff. Okay. Well, you believe in private property. Yeah. Well, but I just don't want the corporations to make a ton of money. Well, which corporations? Because the ones that make the most money are the nonprofits. The rest of them are hiring people. They're selling product, goods, or services. That's a cash flow game, right? So go get in the flow, get in the flow of the cash flow, and you'll be better for it than fighting against it and blaming Amazon for being so rich. It's like, yeah, they're rich because they employ millions of people. And, these nonprofits, now they, on the other hand, have some interesting, books. But also the restriction on personal freedoms, right? The ability to buy what you want, what serves you and your property or what you want is a big deal. California's been doing this for decades as well, as more and more Democrats they've been under Democratic leadership for 20 years. And I don't even know if you could call the Arnold Schwarzenegger governorship time period as Republican leadership. It was kind of like they slowed down the bleeding for just a little bit. But here's Steve Hilton at a local Ace Hardware store in California talking about how the state of California's policies and regulations affects what you, the consumer, can have on the shelf.
We are in Oceanside, San Diego County. This is Logan, who's done incredibly well. You're how old? 26 years old. Owns 2 Ace Hardwares. What's going on in California that's making your life difficult?
We get a giant list every month of new products that we can no longer sell. There's tons of paint products that California restricts, turpentine and denatured alcohol. And it could be as simple as it doesn't have a label on it that California requires.
And so what do people do?
A lot of people go to Arizona.
It's insane.
So these are California compliant umbrellas. California banned the sale of our old umbrellas because they had PFAS in them. PFAS is found in literally everything else.
Okay.
It's a forever chemical. It's meant for waterproofing. Now the vendor has to make California specific ones without these restrictions, which increases our price, which therefore increases the consumer price.
What are we looking at here?
Yeah, this is all battery products, which should be gas powered items. Like California has banned the sale of gas powered equipment. They work great, but obviously the issue is your battery runs out and it's not like you can just dump more battery in it. And it also takes away other business, gas engine repair business as well.
That you had once.
Correct.
And they're killing it.
Correct.
Thanks a lot, Gavin Newsom.
They're going to take your houses. They're going to take your hunting licenses. They've taken your lawnmowers and your weed whackers. You can't get freaking turpentine. You got weird umbrellas, probably aren't even waterproof. It's all happening.
Oh.
Now, Tom Steyer, who's a billionaire, my understanding is he made his money in the oil industry. And as an act of self-flatulation and guilt, he's now become super environmental and all that kind of stuff. Classic, right? Don't blame me. Don't blame me. Look at all the money I give to charity, even though he made all the money in the oil industry. I could be wrong on that. I think that's Tom Steyer. So he was on with Jennifer Welch, who is an absolute hater. We've played clips of her in the past. He was on with Jennifer Welch, and he's talking about trans kids. And again, do you think you can win a statewide election or a federal election with this type of a platform?
You talked about trans people. I'm totally in favor of trans athletes in high school. I think when you understand the vulnerability, the stress, the danger of being a trans kid, and you understand that almost half of them try to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then you think we're going to punish those kids. We're going to cut them off from team sports. We're going to cut them off from participating in the community. We're going to cut them off from fun. It's like, no, we're not. No, we're not. And, as someone who played sports my whole life and loves sports and love playing sports, there are more important things than whether you start on your high school basketball team. And that is standing up for people who are under threat of death. You talked about trans people.
It's more important to stand up for the 0.1% of trans kids. It's more important to stand up for the deer rolling around the Oregon forest. It's more important to stand up to your gas-powered lawnmower. Stand up for the weeds.
I'm sorry, dude. Get bent.
Makes you wonder, huh? You can see why the Democrats didn't have a great turnout in these last couple primaries, and you can see why they're starting to run some center candidates, trying
more
to tack
people,
to the right a little
but
bit. Here is Karen Bass admitting that LA was once a great city, and it's now a crappy city, and she's not done anything about it.
Well, the LA that I grew up in, first of all, was a lot cleaner. There were not people sleeping on our streets. The city was actually affordable. You could rent an apartment, work part-time, and go to school.
So what'd you do to it?
It was a lot different. And I am so hopeful, though, because our city has grown to be such an international city, and I love that. Everybody in the world lives here, and our city is much more diverse than it was before. Many more people. But unfortunately, the city isn't affordable now. And we do have people sleeping on our streets, which is exactly why I ran for mayor, because I know how our city can be, and we're going to get there again. Well,
she just took a few detours. As she said, well, I didn't realize how much the resistance inside my office would be. Yeah, because your office is full of communists. So are you, by the way. Representative Nicole Maliotakis, who I always thought was Greek, because, Jonatakis, Maliotakis is like, oh, hey, look, she probably married a Greek guy because she's actually Cuban, turns out. But she was on with Fox Business, and she was talking about one of the challenges we have is the communist government of Cuba, through its intelligence and its indoctrination of people. It's got tentacles in all these educational systems and actors in our government through different nonprofit organizations like Neville Singham and Code Pink have actually funded and facilitated the rise of communism and Marxism within our government and within these different politicians. And some of them, like Karen Bass, who you have just heard from, have had direct training and funding from Cuba.
Organizations like Code Pink, I'm so glad that we're seeing Treasury and Justice investigate them. Code Pink should have its 501c3 revoked. This is an organization where its leaders have not only met with the communist regime in Cuba, but with the Iranian regime. They've also even met with the leaders of Hamas. They are funded by billionaires associated with the Communist Party in China. They're here to undermine our country, to act as agitators and disruptors. And so we need to take organizations like that serious and follow the money. And on that note, Congress people like Jayapal and Johnson, who went to Cuba just last month, when this administration is trying to do what it's trying to do with Cuba to take them away remove them as a national security threat. To me, they should be investigated for treason. It is unacceptable that U.S. dollars funded that trip. And the speaker has to cut off any type of trip like that to communist Cuba going forward.
Well, look, actually went down to Cuba. To get training. Now, Code Pink is around here. Have you seen the Code Pink van?
I sure have.
Yep, Code Pink van drives around Code Pink all over it. So Code Pink, along with Indivisible Washington, has been organizing the No King rallies that we see here in Poulsbo and up in Kingston, where I'm at.
Okay.
And it's interesting, right? It's all boomers. It's all white hair people. And they've got their Code Pink van. He's always there, with the protest. Code Pink pays them. They get paid.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, they get paid. Those protesters that are out there, even the older ones, there might be a few that are just there for a good time volunteering, but a good chunk of them are getting minimum wage to go stand out and do those No King protests.
Brother.
Yeah, totally. Okay, now, fraud. J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller had a press conference, and as you know, J.D. Vance is the fraud czar. He's in charge of getting rid of the fraud in the United States. And he opened up this hearing. This fraud commission that they have is unlike anything we've ever seen before. They are moving at light speed. Normally you set up a commission, they spend a year kind of getting it set up, and then it just takes forever. And then in 5 years, they release some reports saying there was some fraud 5 years ago. Right? That's typically how it goes. But they've taken a completely different attack. They've taken a whole of government approach, and they have cut off huge sums of money that was going out the door to fraudulent programs.
Now, let me just recap for the benefit of our friends of the media. In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that have been stolen from the American people. We referred over $22 billion in fraudulent small business loans back to the Treasury for collection. We deferred more than $1.3 billion in fraudulent Medicaid reimbursements that were coming from various states, particularly California. We put a 6-month hold on enrollments for new hospice and home health care providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services, but were just focused on fraud. So we're going to cut that out for a little bit and try to get to a place where we can actually certify that the people providing hospice services are actually providing those very necessary and important services. We recovered taxpayer funds from the $135 billion stolen after the floodgates were open in the immediate aftermath of COVID. We have found $6.3 billion in suspected fraudulent government contracts, which were mostly awarded during the last administration, and that has stopped. And finally, we blocked $60 million in student aid fraud that should have gone to young people trying to get an education, but instead we're going to fraudsters. And I think the theme here of the anti-fraud task force up to this point has really been that we're protecting two classes of victims here. We're protecting the American taxpayers who shouldn't have their money stolen by fraudsters. And of course, we're protecting the people who need these services. Now, let me just recap.
Now, this is pretty significant here. We've showed twice now on the show the difference between in money that the RNC has and the DNC has.
Yep.
The DNC is negative. Their net is negative. Got 17 million cash, 13 or 14 million in debt. They've got a negative number there.
They're running on fumes.
Running on fumes. So you cut off all of the aid. Okay, so where's the donations? Act Blue's under investigation. Still raising money, but they're doing it the right way because they got a microscope under them. Where's the money? Where are the big donors? Okay, so they can fund a PAC or whatever, but the party? No one's going to donate to the party? Where's the money, Ron?
I don't know.
Kind of makes you
like
wonder.
There's been a lot of grift money in the past, it seems like, filling these coffers.
Feels like smoke and mirrors. Doesn't it? Feels like smoke and mirrors. Where's the money? Where's the voters? Why do the machines keep going down? Right? I think that we need to put on our big boy pants. Those of us that are involved in the Republican Party, we have to stop playing like we're losing. Right? We lost the war. The ground is now ceded to a socialist base, but it can be changed. They haven't proven their point. Housing is unaffordable. Social services are fraudulent and scammy. People who need the services can't get them. People who shouldn't deserve the services get taken to the front of the line, right? Every single element you look at, problems. And all of it comes back to the socialist aspect of it. We've got to return to a true capitalist system. We've got to have control over our politicians. And the ones that make the most sense are the Republicans. Even the Democrats are going to start running some sane people here pretty soon. Because in a marketplace of ideas, they're actually going to have to compete. Okay. So this is Stephen Miller at the same press conference talking about how dramatic the overspending and the fraud is. They suspect that everywhere they've looked, it's been worse than they expected, worse than what they expected. There's enough fraud that Stephen Miller believes we could balance the budget.
What we've learned, which is not surprising to those of us who spent some time in this area, is that fraud is every bit as bad as President Trump said it was, and even worse. So in other words, everything we found either confirms our worst fears or exceeds them. That's the bad news. Good news is that the best team in government under the leadership of Vice President Vance has been assembled to deal with it. And of course, one of those men who you'll hear from in a second is sitting to my right here, the Associate Attorney General for Fraud Enforcement, Colin McDonald. But before I yield the floor, I do want to just touch on one of the points that Andrew hit on in his remarks. All of the systems in our country, whether you're talking about voting, whether you're talking about entitlements, whether you're talking about welfare benefits, were set up based on the honor system. They're set up based on the idea that you could trust the average person through their own morality to abide by the rules and comply with the law. And so the way most welfare works.
I want to point this out. When I say phrases like they weaponize your virtue, they use your virtue against you. The system is set up for a virtuous people, the honor system. That you're not going to outright lie. You're not going to take advantage of your neighbor. The system is set up on the honor system. And when you hold that mirror up and you go, well, I would never lie on an application. I would never ask for money that I wasn't rightfully entitled to. I would never do these things. You then cast that you project that virtue onto the people around you. You project that virtue onto the immigrant. You project that virtue onto everybody.
Yeah, and you say to yourself, well, I wouldn't do it, and I don't know anybody who would, so nobody else will do it either.
Because we were all raised with the idea, do unto others as you would have them do to you. I don't want to be cheated, so I won't cheat you. That's your virtue. The system is set up in such a way that other people can weaponize your virtue. The fact that you just wouldn't do that when they do it, and we just look at them and go, well, they probably didn't lie because I wouldn't have lied. That's your virtue being weaponized against you. So now let's continue to hear this.
In most states and most places is we take your word for it. If you fill out a piece of paper and you say your kids are hungry, you are going to get food stamps. We don't check as a country if you even have kids. In fact, as basic as that. We don't even check if you even have children. You will just start getting the checks. And so what's happened to our country is we became a society, as we've seen with the Somali refugee problem in Minnesota, where you have a large number of people that are not following the honor system. They're not playing by the rules. They're not abiding by our laws. And the amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, is that we could balance the federal budget if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. And that ultimately is going to be what we have to do as a country. In the meantime, because of the vice president's leadership, you are seeing the most muscular, robust, aggressive, dedicated, determined, and speedy effort to shut down criminal fraud that has not only ever occurred in the history of this country, but in any developed nation. So thank you.
They've weaponized our virtue against us. We want to take care of the poor. Here, more taxes. We want to take care of these programs. Look, the need is so great. Look at all the homeless people. More money, more money. Washington State's in this pickle, right? Our budget far exceeds what we can bring in. And so what is the duty of the legislature? Bring in more money. And so they passed a new statewide income tax for millionaires, which applies to everybody. They're just going to lower that exemption eventually. Yep. And it turns out through a Freedom of Information Act, we found out that the Attorney General of Washington, which they're not supposed to be able to do this, the Washington Attorney General and Democratic leaders literally plotted how to overturn a nearly century-old decision that banned income taxes in the state, writing, they want to force the state Supreme Court to reconsider its 1933 decision. Nearly 1,000 pages of public records obtained by the Center Square show. That's from TJ Martinelli, the Center Square. So they've done everything they can in plotting with the Attorney General to block the initiative of signatures of people to overturn it. They called it an emergency order, which prevents the referendum, allows it to go into law. They crafted the legislation in such a way that it puts the Supreme Court in a position to basically waive the exemption, because that's the unconstitutional part. And that means we're all going to get taxes now care of the Supreme Court. So all of this stuff is socialist, communist, colluding against we the people without doing any type of follow-up. They don't want NGOs to have less money. They benefit from it. They don't want to find out where the fraud is. They're on the take. How else would they get campaign donations? Right? Their ideas are not popular. They don't work. You're not going to go into any elementary school in America, and I promise this, I put money on it. You could go into any elementary school in America, and if you did a blind survey of all the parents and said, how many of you want boys to go into the bathrooms with your girls?
Zero.
Even in the most liberal of areas, you're not going to get more than 10% of parents. And you're going to find out half those parents have transgender kids themselves. Right? You're not going to find a majority of people that want to do that. So very interesting there. Okay. We are going to jump over into private now. But before we do that, we're going to play one last little clip. This is from Janine Shapiro. She's the DC attorney. She's in charge of the District of Columbia. And she's been fighting street crime in the District of Columbia, but she's also been revisiting some old cases like Benghazi. And she says something here that I think is super significant. She talks about the inertia of things.
You know, there's one thing, Dan, that I'm going to share with you that I really haven't told anyone. And I don't know if you recall, but in 2012, we were all talking about Benghazi and unfortunately, the death of Ambassador Chris Stevens and the other three operatives who were there, the CIA, at the compound there. The truth is that we fought talking about whether or not it was a peaceful protest that went awry or whether it was, people just went there to burn down the embassy. And when I got into the office, I said, pull the Benghazi file. And so we pulled it and we had drones, Dan. We knew what was going on. And I looked at these drones and it was clear to me, Dan, that there was no peaceful protest. There was no one who got there and said, we object to the United States being here. These MOs or MFers, they came in with rocket-propelled grenades because they knew what they were going to do. And when they couldn't break into the ambassador's residence, they went out and they got fuel to burn him out. And I remember saying to the prosecutors in the room, Dan, Well, the nation and Hillary Clinton, we were all fighting. It was a peaceful protest. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. We know for a fact that it was not a peaceful protest. The drones made it clear they came there to tear the place down. And I remember saying to the prosecutors, did you know the whole country was going crazy about whether or not this was a peaceful protest or it was just a brigade that came in to tear us down? And they said, well, yeah. I said, well, why didn't you guys say something? And they said, it's not our job. And I said, you know what? You're right. It wasn't your job. But now that I'm here, I'm going to make it clear what it was. The truth is they came there to kill people. There was no question about it. And so at that point, I got an indictment for the ringleader, Bakush, and with you guys, with you and Cash, we were going to get over there, and I can't say where, to bring him back. And I was at the FDOC at the transfer of control, and Cash and I were the first ones on the plane. I wanted to look at this guy. But yeah, it's incredible. Unless you go in there and say, I want this done, inertia rules. And I couldn't allow
inertia rules. If you don't put a stop to it, this just keeps going. We moved on from Benghazi. It's been conspiracy theorists all this time keeping it alive. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They knew the whole time. They knew the whole time it wasn't a peaceful protest.
That is so irritating and maddening. I just,
Yep. But thank goodness Trump's administration is looking under some of these rocks. The inertia of things, the plausible believability, just keep the next day. Office of President-elect Joe Biden. We're just going to keep, we're just going to fall forward and just keep doing thing after thing, crisis after crisis, media storm after media storm until we all forget. Well, the chickens are coming home to roost finally.
I was just going to say that I have forgotten all the details surrounding Benghazi, and this is perfect because having forgotten, can you remind me, if you can remember, what was the feeling around Hillary Clinton with this Benghazi trouble? Because
Hillary Clinton stayed asleep and didn't respond to this thing or authorize a reaction force until it was way too late.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of suspicions that there was some arms trafficking and guns trafficking going through that embassy. And Chris Stevens, the ambassador, was not happy with that. Gonna blow the lid. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. General Flynn had some issues with it too. And thank goodness this issue hasn't been forgotten.
My recollection of this is that Hillary Clinton let this shit happen so that those people would die so that her crimes would be covered up.
That's the impression most people come from.
Okay.
In fact, I had an episode.
Just making sure I remember it right.
I had an episode in season 1 saying it all started in Libya. That this incident in Libya is what set off this massive divide. Because remember, General Flynn was the director of national intelligence for Barack Obama. And when this happened, that was the schism. That's when General Flynn swore that Obama and his gang and Hillary Clinton were the mortal enemy. They were Democrats.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because now that Jeanine Pirro has announced some of these details, why is she not talking about Hillary Clinton?
My only thing is it'll come when it comes.
Okay.
There's a timing to this stuff.
Okay.
First and foremost, it wasn't peaceful. Okay, well, who said it wasn't peaceful? Hillary Clinton. Why did she say that? Here's the reasons why. There's a strategic release of this information, but you're getting a little preview here that she's saying, hey, we knew all along, but there's an inertia to these things.
Okay.
There's an inertia, right? And this is like everything. If you let the communists in, there's an inertia. You put enough of them inside of your city building, right, working in bureaucratic positions, and now you can't change policy because they're going to hold it up. There's an inertia. They're going to wait you out.
Well, I think it is great that Jeanine Pirro is doing this, and what it says to me is that I'm hopeful because I had forgotten about Benghazi, and now that this is being brought back up, I'm very hopeful that we'll actually get some truth out of this. I'm really hopeful about that.
My suspicion is Trump is committed to getting as much out as he possibly can. And let the world figure out the pieces. But they've indicted the leaders of that, right? Just like we went and got Maduro, now we've indicted Raul Castro. Like they're going after these war crimes people one by one. And what you're gonna see is you're gonna clean them a lot up with the foreign people. They're gonna come back. They're gonna sing like canaries, and then that opens the door to come after the enablers inside of our country.
All right.
Whereas the enemy within, as Trump says. All right, guys, that's it for the public today. We're going to jump over to private. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's health and global